So this is the fun one. How the world will end. The end is
Probably
near.
the Big Bang, like it started.
Last week there was a guy right on the freeway down the road from the church with a big sign saying the end is near. You better find Jesus. You know, it was like a 6-foot sign that he was holding up. Stephen Hawking, I think he's did he die? Died, didn't he?
He's dead, yeah.
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
So he said the end is in 2600. Jehovah Witnesses said we are living in the
Just far enough out for him not to see it, yeah.
Yeah. And they can't persecute him before 2600, he would definitely be dead. JW's Jehovah Witness, we're living in times, final end time events are upon us. Seventh-day Adventists. Headquarters of the church must be established in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri. And that was the Mormons' belief, that he was told we must be in Missouri to be able to withstand the tribulation or something like that.
Never heard that.
So the Mormons.
He overshot it when he went to Utah then, huh?
Yeah. Russell, and it's not Russell Crowe, but the Russell that made the Mormons, he said the last days begin, started Jesus' invisible present. 1914 was the end of the world. And then his successor, Rutherford, said, no. Jesus came invisibly to the earth in 1914, but 1925, it will be the end of the world. And of course, that hadn't happened. Curiosity about the end of the world abounds. It's frightening, exciting to think they will witness the end. I would rather not witness the end. I'd rather be long gone, I think.
Yeah.
Wars and natural disasters are common. I just watched the All Quiet on the Western Front about World War I. And of course, everybody was back then, they were thinking, oh, it's in the world. Look at this. We've got World War I, the first World War that's ever been. Obviously, it's prediction of the end of the world. There was 2 million soldiers killed in that World War I. That was kind of interesting. They had these trenches, you see them running up and down the trenches. They had like maybe 3 trenches within a couple 100 yards. And the Germans would advance and take a trench, and then the French would go back and retake the trench. And so for 4 years, they were just going back and forth, like within a few 100 yards, taking trenches and losing trenches, until finally the Americans joined in and brought all their power. And then the French just started running over the Germans. And there's 7 million people killed in World War I. Can you believe that?
That's amazing.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. I watched a movie by that was restored from the British Imperial War Museum by Peter Jackson, the guy that did Lord of the Rings. He has these very fancy studios in New Zealand. And so you see those kind of juddery shots of World War I movies. Well, he restored it such that it was in color and it ran like a perfectly normal movie. And it was just terrifying watching it. I mean, it was heartbreaking because it was so hopeless. Just the tragedy of it was unbelievable.
Yeah, pretty stupid. Famines and ecological crisis are promoting this the end of the world. These the little pictures, I don't know why they're covering up the title, but it shouldn't be. Anyway, the last things have already begun. The resurrection of Christ is the first and decisive act of the last day. The work of salvation has been substantially done. There's only 2 comings. the rapture involves three comings. And of course, that was invented back in the late 1800s by John Nelson Darby, and we're going to talk about that next week. So we'll go into that. And he said there'd be three comings. We're still waiting for the judgment that will destroy the world of corruption and establish the kingdom of saints. God's the only one that can really save us. So church teachings from the catechism, three events that must take place. A unparalleled period of tribulation and apostasy. So I would think, that would have to be something really worldwide. Not just in Europe, it'd have to affect Africa and Asia and all that. Spread of the gospel to all the countries, to all the world. And that is getting close. I mean, there's even churches in Antarctica, recognition of Jesus as the Christ by all Israel. That's going to be tough. So as far as the tribulation, there's going to be religious deception. And, we're seeing that now with the Germans in their synod, where they're saying, it need to be more liberal about the homosexuals, LGBT, more liberal about giving communion to people who are divorced. And, they might even go to having women priests, who knows, but they're really going off the deep end. Apostasy from the truth faith and the rise of the Antichrist. Of course, the Antichrist has been probably every 10 years, someone says, or every century, someone said, oh, that's the Antichrist. And he's really not here. He's going to be over the whole world. Not sure of the worldwide spread of the gospel. You see this thing, it says Mentos and Coca-Cola. You know what that's about? Do you?
No.
People used to put a little Mentos mints inside a Coca-Cola and it would start bubbling up and bubbling over. So if the truck hits the Coca-Cola, it's going to be the end of the world. Took me a while to figure out, and I did this like 2 years ago.
You're all drowned in Coca-Cola.
Yeah, we'll be bubbled over. So the gospel has been preached everywhere in the world and accepted. And of course, it's not in some areas. There's areas in China, for instance, that never have heard of Jesus. Israel, again, the Jewish recognition of Jesus as the Messiah. So you see that what everybody will do at the end of the world?
Oh my gosh, that's too accurate.
Their iPhones up there.
Oh, taking pictures, huh? Yeah.
That's too on point.
Yeah, really. So obviously Israel has not recognized Jesus as the Messiah. So maybe it's kind of begun. I would think the Jewish population is still going down relatively to what the Christians are going up. So that's definitely a marker that will make a difference. So I think we're still safe in our lifetimes. Final judgment. Objective justice. Justice is what is demanded for people because of their needs, so forth. To conversion, holiness, things will appear as they really are, and the heart of every man will be completely just exposed. This was a prophetic warning in 2017 from this guy who said there's another planet called Nibiru that is circling the sun that we can't see, and it's going to crash into the earth or come close enough to the earth to cause all kinds of earthquakes. But it didn't happen, I don't think.
No, we're still here.
Miracle.
Yeah. What Dr. Anders says all the time, that the end time is closer now than it's ever been. And the end of our lives is always near, so we will be, regardless of it, we get to the end of the world or end of us, we're gonna have to have the same account to our maker. And we should have confidence in our lives. And let me see, here's 2028. This is another prediction. So he'll be here exactly 2,000 years after the year of his death is biblical proof. So obviously we can't dispute that. So,
Well, that's right.
we've got 6 more years left. So if you want to move to Houston, you
Yeah.
gotta hurry.
Unbelievable.
My neighbor back in the early 80s was going to a Pentecostal church, and when the Iraq War, he started showing me these pictures of these huge flying things that's in Revelation, and he showed me a picture of the helicopters, and he said, "Oh, see, the helicopters are what Revelation was talking about, these huge wasp type things coming in," and he was sure that his preacher was telling him the end of the world is coming because of the Iraq War, and I would think that's a big
negative.
draw.
Yeah, it's a negative way it's living your life in fear, but that's not what the Bible teaches us to live. And we don't live our life in fear.
So if I was a preacher and I wanted to have a big church, I would talk about the end times all the time. And hey, it's going to be 3 years from now, but 3 years. Well, I missed. What they would do is they would say, according to the Bible, it's 4 years from now, especially the Mormons. And then when it didn't happen, they would say, "Oh, I misinterpreted it. It's really 4 more years, or it's 3 more years. Oh, I misinterpreted it again." And
they want to keep their job.
They want to keep their job. They want to keep the money in, keep the
money
people
coming.
scared.
Exactly, keep them afraid.
Yeah.
It's not a very hopeful message. I don't understand. People, I guess human beings are attracted to negativity, but it's not a message of hope. It's not what Christ has taught, at least not what I think he's teaching.
Yep. So that's all we have. It's 10:30. You get to go jump in your hot tub.
Really? It makes a difference. So yeah, I guess everyone's celebrating the big win, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Monsignor Borski came in. We were here Sunday morning for the 7:00 mass. And he said, Father Dat and Father Christopher had a Astros hangover from staying up till 11 o'clock watching the game. Well, they didn't make it. So he said he was called in to do 7:00 mass. Were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
7 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
And it's amazing. I was there with Carol, and there's still 50 kids or so that came up, and they put money in the basket for the front.
I thought the 7 o'clock would be slim attendance, but it wasn't. It was, pretty much like every Sunday.
I'd say,
Well, you had the time change also, so you could sleep an hour later.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that may have helped it.
Yeah, there's probably 500 people or so there, but I can't imagine getting the kids up at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock and getting them ready for church.
It would have to be earlier than that to get them all in the car, and anyway.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Richard. What's next week? Looked at my.
Next week I have Deacon Randy. Deacon Randy is going to make a presentation, and we're going to talk about what?
Rapture in the second coming.
Why do Catholics believe in the rapture, and what is the second coming?
So all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
so
terrific.
More end times things.
Well, I really appreciate all your hard work, Richard. I really do. It's great.
The only thing I can reference about something to think about is Medjugorje. And you haven't
Mhm.
been there? Have you?
No, I haven't. No.
And you haven't been there either, right?
No.
Okay, well, I would say you ought to go there because Mary really is appearing there. We've got the Pope sent his nuncio there and they're pretty much going to say that the first visions were real when Mary appeared the first 3 or 4 years, but they can't say that the visions were real until there's no more visions.
Oh,
So as long as they're having visions, they can't pronounce on them. But what Mary said is she's going to tell Maria that there's going to be 2 tribulations. There's supposed to be 3, but because of all the prayers over the last 40 years, we've knocked off 1, but the other 2 can't be knocked off. And there'll be 2 tribulations, but it won't be the end of the world. It'll help bring a lot of people back because after the second one, there'll be a permanent sign in the sky to say a big burning cross that can't be removed, can't be touched, it'll be there. And hopefully it'll bring a lot of people back to the church. And Maria is supposed to tell this priest, and then they pray for 3 days, and then the priest announces the tribulations that's going to come, the first one in the next 3 days after announcements. So he's 75. So those tribulations have to happen before he dies. So, in the next 15 years or so, something's going to happen. Again, I won't have to worry about it. Guy's turned 73. But it's something to consider that down the road, there may be something happening from Medjugorje, but it's not the end of the world. It's to try to get the people back to the church, back to God. Okay, that's it. I'll see you all next week.
All right, thank you.
Have a blessed week.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Carolyn. Interesting. End times. My one of my nieces, she and her